Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Friday, September 26th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The high in Riverside today is 79.4 degrees, with a low dipping to 64.9, so expect a comfortable fall day with mild breezes, ideal for outdoor plans. Coming up, we'll break down the motivations behind President Trump's decision to slap 100% tariffs on imported pharmaceuticals, and examine which elements endured from California's aggressive bid to oversee AI data centers. Plus, other key stories on global trade tensions, local tech innovations, and community updates. All this and more coming up on Alex's News. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. Our first story this morning involves a bold move by President Trump on trade policy. Just yesterday, he announced steep new tariffs on imports like pharmaceuticals, home furnishings, and heavy trucks, set to kick in 5 days from now on October 1st. Joining me to break this down is our Washington correspondent, Ethan. Ethan, what sparked this announcement?
Thanks, Grace. President Trump made the reveal through posts on his Truth Social platform, calling it a shield for American manufacturers against what he terms unfair outside competition. He ties it to national security and cutting our reliance on foreign supply chains. According to reporting from CBS News, this builds on his earlier trade pushes in April and August of this year, aiming to boost homegrown production and trim the federal budget deficit.
Tariffs on drugs sound alarming. Walk us through the specifics on pharmaceuticals.
Absolutely, and this one's a real blockbuster. A 100% tariff hits all imported branded or patented pharmaceutical products, which could double prices for those medicines overnight. Trump justified it on national security grounds, pointing to vulnerabilities in our supply chains for essential drugs. NPR reports that in 2024, we imported nearly $233 billion worth of these products per U.S. Census Bureau data. Exemptions go to foreign companies breaking ground on U.S. plants or with construction underway, but it's murky for those with existing facilities, and no certification process is outlined yet. Generics might dodge this, but it could snag biopharmaceuticals, complex generics, gene therapies, orphan drugs, and even patented ones nearing expiry.
That departs from what he said before. How so?
You're right. Back in August on CNBC, Trump floated a phased approach, starting small and ramping to 150 or 250% over a year to ease the shift for U.S. relocation. This jumps straight to full throttle. Major players like Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Roche, Bristol-Myers Squibb, and Eli Lilly have already invested here due to earlier threats, as CBS News notes.
Shifting to home goods, what about kitchen cabinets, bathroom vanities, and upholstered furniture?
These hit closer to home, pun intended. A 50% tariff targets cabinets and vanities. Born from an August investigation, Trump says wrapped in just 50 days, citing a massive influx of cheap imports threatening U.S. producers and security. Upholstered items like sofas face 30%, with about 60% of our 2024 imports from Vietnam and China, per CBS News. ABC News highlights this as countering foreign flooding, no exemptions spelled out. With median home prices at $422,600 last August and affordability tanking, this could inflate housing costs amid shortages and high mortgage rates.
And heavy trucks? That's a big rig to haul.
Indeed, a 25% tariff covers all heavy big trucks and parts made abroad, protecting icons like Peterbilt, Kenworth, Freightliner, and Mack. Trump invokes national security to safeguard their stability and supply chains. NPR links it to April Commerce Department probes into trucking risks.
Legally, is this on solid ground or just hot air?
It draws from Section 232 of the 1962 Trade Expansion Act, letting the president slap duties if imports threaten security. Commerce kicked off probes in April for drugs and trucks and August for furniture. But full Section 232 reviews can take 270 days, so recommendations are pending. No proclamations or updates to the harmonized tariff schedule hit the Federal Register yet, as of this morning. Stronger precedent here than under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, where courts have pushed back, including a Supreme Court date 40 days away on November 5th. ABC 7 Chicago reports no challenges to this specific announcement so far, but trade groups are watching.
Economists are sounding alarms. What's the fallout look like?
Experts predict shockwaves. That pharma tariff could spike prices, straining patients, insurance, and hospitals, with folks rationing drugs, as Pascal Chan of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce warns via NPR. It contradicts Trump's drug cost cut goals. Furniture inflation already rose 0.7% last August for living room and kitchen items, outpacing overall rates. Broader, the Consumer Price Index climbed 2.9% year-over-year in August, up from 2.3% in April, blamed mostly on tariffs by Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, per CBS and ABC. Trump insists there's no inflation and importers eat costs, but studies show 70% pass through to consumers by June. Job cuts hit 42,000 in manufacturing since April. No net factory wins. The OECD flags 2026 pain, with risks of stagflation, higher prices, and unemployment.
Markets reacted too, right?
Yes, Wall Street dipped post-announcement. Pharma and furniture stocks in Asia tumbled, as Bloomberg Law notes. India, a generics hub, sees little hit now but uncertainty for specialties.
Ethans, this tariffs tale has us all on edge. Thanks for unpacking it.
My pleasure, Grace.
Welcome back to our morning broadcast. For our second story today, we're turning to the intersection of tech innovation and environmental concerns in California. Chloe, lawmakers have been wrestling with regulating data centers amid the AI boom. What survived from their initial ambitious plans?
That's right, Grace. As of today, September 26, 2025, California's push to curb the explosive growth of data centers, driven by artificial intelligence's massive energy and water demands, has ended up more like a gentle nudge than a firm grip. Initially, there were big ideas for strict efficiency rules, renewable energy mandates, and protecting everyday ratepayers from footing the bill for big tech's power hunger. But heavy lobbying from groups like the Data Center Coalition watered it down, pun intended, leaving just a couple of disclosure bills on Governor Gavin Newsom's desk.
Disclosure bills? Walk us through the key ones, Chloe, and explain what data centers really mean for our resources, since not everyone might grasp their scale.
Sure. Data centers are those huge warehouses packed with servers that store and process data, powering everything from social media to AI chatbots. They're energy guzzlers, Grace. According to projections cited by the San Francisco Chronicle, they could double or triple California's electricity needs by 2028, potentially eating up 1/10 of the nation's power. In 2023 alone, they used about 2.6% of the state's electricity. That's roughly 5,580 gigawatt-hours. And water? A typical 100-megawatt facility can swallow up to 500,000 gallons a day for cooling, per International Energy Agency estimates. Google's facilities have reported over 3 million gallons daily in some cases, straining our drought-hit areas where evaporative cooling just lets water evaporate into thin air, worsening groundwater loss.
Alarming stuff. So which bills made it, and how do they tackle this?
The two survivors are Assembly Bill 93, or AB 93, from Assemblymember Diane Papan, a Democrat from Millbrae, focusing on water transparency, and Senate Bill 57, or SB 57, from Senator Steve Padilla, a Democrat from Chula Vista, aimed at shielding ratepayers. AB 93 requires operators of new or expanding facilities classified as Type 1, 2, or 3, based on power density and size, to report estimated annual water use to local suppliers when getting or renewing licenses under penalty of perjury. For renewals, they submit actual usage yearly. It declares water conservation a statewide priority, overriding local exemptions, and directs the Department of Water Resources and California Energy Commission to create efficiency guidelines by January 1, 2028, like closed-loop cooling systems that reuse water or capturing rainwater, aligned with Energy Star standards.
And when does Newsom have to decide?
He has until October 12th, that's 16 days from now, to sign or veto. As the Los Angeles Times reported, this came after amendments softened it from public disclosures to just notifying suppliers, which critics say limits access but still helps planning in arid spots.
What about the energy side with SB 57?
SB 57, dubbed the Ratepayer and Technological Innovation Protection Act, passed both houses on September 13th. It lets the California Public Utilities Commission, or CPUC, study if data center loads are shifting costs to homes, small businesses, and farms, with a report due to the legislature by January 1, 2027. By December 31, 2026, it calls for a special tariff or program for big loads like data centers to cover full grid costs, avoiding subsidies. If rates don't cut it, utilities file changes within 12 months. As E&E News uncovered, amendments turned a strict mandate into an authorization, which some like the Utility Reform Network argue the CPUC already has through rules like PG&E's Electric Rule 30, approved in July 2025, requiring data centers to pre-fund transmission upgrades.
Any proof of these cost shifts happening?
Evidence is murky, per Politico Pro. Senator Padilla called subsidizing tech unconscionable, and Harvard's Environmental and Energy Law program pointed to loopholes in secret contracts, but no clear CPUC examples link recent San Joaquin Valley projects to residential hikes.
Speaking of stalled efforts, what didn't make it?
AB 222 from Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Kahan sought energy reporting and efficiency standards for data centers and AI firms to the California Energy Commission, but it got stuck in committee on August 29th amid Bay Area Council pushback, even after allowing aggregated data to protect trade secrets. SB 58 proposed green tax credits for sustainable setups, like 70% carbon-free energy and water-efficient cooling, but fiscal worries killed it after a canceled hearing, as Governing.com detailed.
This hits home in the San Joaquin Valley, right? How so?
Absolutely, Grace. That region's battling water scarcity under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, with farms and subsidence risks already high. The Water Blueprint for the San Joaquin Valley September review warns data centers could add pressure. Take Nautilus Data Technologies, zero water cooling facility in Stockton. It claims zero impact, but broader growth looms, with Silicon Valley eyes on Fresno. As GV Wire and the Public Policy Institute of California noted, AB 93 could help locals plan so hospitals and farms aren't competing with tech titans.
How does California stack up nationally?
We're more transparency-focused than prescriptive peers, per the Washington Post. Oregon's Power Act mandates separate rates and contracts for big users. Ohio requires upfront payments covering 85% of usage. Texas makes loads cover all grid costs. Ours is water-centric, unique via AB 93, but lacks their direct teeth, as Renewable Energy World analyzed.
Fascinating balance between innovation and sustainability, Chloe. Thanks for breaking it all down.
My pleasure, Grace.
Here are some other headlines. President Donald Trump drew a hard line on the map, declaring he will not permit Israel to annex the occupied West Bank, saying, "Nope, I will not allow it." After meetings with Arab and Muslim leaders at the United Nations General Assembly, who warned of grave consequences, the president's stance puts Washington at odds with far-right members of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition pushing for annexation. The timing is no small matter. It follows recognitions of a Palestinian state by key U.S. allies, including the UK and France, and lands just ahead of a planned Trump-Netanyahu meeting at the White House on Monday. The move could mark a major shift in the administration's approach, dialing down annexation talk and turning up the volume on the viability of a two-state solution, a boundary issue that could redefine the contours of U.S.-Israel relations. On Europe's frontier, allies are stitching together a drone wall that's more code than concrete. Representatives from Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, and Denmark are huddling virtually under the chairmanship of EU Defence Commissioner Andrius Kubilius to counter surging airspace violations, including Russian jets straying over Estonia, drones downed over Poland, and sightings that repeatedly grounded flights in Denmark. This wall is all signal, no bricks, sensors, jammers, and coordinated interception tech along the EU's eastern flank. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says Europe must heed its Baltic friends and make this the bedrock of credible defense. With Ukraine sharing frontline know-how and leaders set to revisit the plan in Copenhagen on October 1st, the bloc is aiming to turn buzz into buffer, though the timeline and price tag are still up in the air. In Arizona, a federal judge pressed pause on a fast track to deportation. U.S. District Judge Rosemary Marquez issued a preliminary injunction blocking the removal of dozens of unaccompanied minors from Guatemala and Honduras, extending a restraining order that was set to expire September 26. The court found the government couldn't show coordination with parents for safe return, calling the family reunification rationale all promise, no proof. The ruling covers 57 Guatemalan and 12 Honduran children, ages 3 to 17, represented by the Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project, and ensures they can make their case before an immigration judge. It's a legal speed bump for efforts to expedite removals. Due process getting its day in court before anyone is sent on a one-way flight. Turkish Airlines is cleared for a supersized takeoff with Boeing, announcing a deal for up to 225 new jets after President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's White House visit. The package includes a firm order for 50,787 Dreamliners with options for 25 more, plus a commitment for 107 737 MAX aircraft with options for an additional 50, slated for delivery between 2029 and 2034. The carrier aims to soar past 800 aircraft by 2033 and modernize fully by 2035, balancing a prior 355-plane splash with Airbus. The MAX order hinges on engines from CFM International, while Rolls-Royce and GE are in the running to power the Dreamliners, a transatlantic tie-up that could give both diplomacy and Boeing's order book a lift. And in Chicago, a misconduct saga meets its settlement. The City Council unanimously approved $90 million to resolve 176 lawsuits from 180 people wrongfully convicted in cases tied to former Police Sergeant Ronald Watts and his unit, accused of framing residents, planting drugs, and falsifying reports for nearly a decade until 2012. Officials called settling fiscally prudent, warning trials might have cost $350 to $500 million. The city's first-ever global settlement closes a costly chapter and offers a measure of justice to victims who collectively lost nearly 200 years behind bars, accountability that finally adds up. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 4.0, Gemini Pro 2.5, Gemini Flash 2.5, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.